On the night of August 7th, Russian forces targeted residential buildings in the heart of Kherson 3 times, leaving 1 woman dead and injuring 12, according to a statement by Oleksandr Prokudin, the head of the Kherson Regional Military Administration. Prokudin described the night as difficult for Kherson, as Russian troops persistently set fire to homes in the central part of the city. The timeline of events began around 0:50 when Russian forces fired at a residential building. 8 residents were diagnosed with situational neurotic reactions, and 1 person with reduced mobility was hospitalized. 2 rescuers sustained injuries and were hospitalized for general body overheating while putting out the fire caused by the attack. Shelling continued half an hour later, resulting in the death of a 59-year-old woman and injury to a 60-year-old man from an artillery shell. At 3:15, the Russians attacked again, injuring a 93-year-old woman who was subsequently hospitalized with mine explosive injuries. The head of the office of the president, Andriy Yermak, documented the event with a photo of a 9-story building ablaze from the shelling. The Polish government is mulling over the idea of entirely shutting its border with Belarus to fortify the country against worsening security situations due to the presence of the Wagner Group terrorist organization in Belarus. In a conversation with CNN, Polish Deputy Foreign Minister Paweł Jablonski highlighted that Poland is contemplating all necessary measures to defend its territory and protect its citizens, including the complete isolation of Belarus through border closure. Though considered a last resort, Jablonski emphasized that Poland may have no alternative if attempts to destabilize the country persist. Jablonski also underscored that the threat from Belarus was tangible, and that the Wagner Group had already tried to penetrate Polish territory. The government expects further attempts at border attacks and possible violations of airspace. In response, Poland is enhancing military presence near the Belarusian border, including the allocation of additional forces and equipment. After 2 Belarusian helicopters reportedly violated Poland's airspace on August 1st, the Polish Ministry of National Defense summoned an emergency meeting and escalated military preparedness. Official protests were lodged, and evidence of airspace violation was presented to the Belarusian government. The Russians bombarded settlements in various districts of Kharkiv, resulting in the death of 1 man and injuries to 4 others, according to Oleksandr, the head of the Kharkiv Regional State Administration. On the previous day, Kharkiv was attacked with an S-300 missile, damaging a civil enterprise building. Further shelling occurred across different settlements, leading to injuries and the death of a 57-year-old woman from a guided aerial bomb attack. Other damages included farm buildings and private houses, and there were reports of fires. In the midst of the ongoing battles in the Kupiansk direction, Sinyahubov said that Ukrainians had successfully repelled an offensive attempt by the Russians, forcing them to retreat with losses. Kherson also faced multiple shelling incidents that night, with 1 woman losing her life and 7 others injured, including damage to a high-rise building. In the temporarily occupied territory of the Luhansk region, Russian invaders are systematically replacing local collaborators with officials from Russia, stated Artem Lysogor, the head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration. Lysogor reported that the Russians appear to be losing trust in local collaborators and are consequently relegating them to the front lines, while mobilized individuals in the occupied territory face restrictions, such as the prohibition of personal cell phones. Such constraints are applicable only to the locals and not to Russians. Over the past day, there have been 50 combat engagements between the Ukrainian Defense Forces and Russian invaders across various frontline areas. In another episode of violence, Russian occupation forces targeted the village of Kucherivka in the Kupiansk district of the Kharkiv region. According to the head of the presidential office, Andriy Yermak, the attack resulted in 2 deaths and 3 wounded among the civilian population. The incident was shared by Yermak on his Telegram channel, where he confirmed that a house was directly hit during the attack. Russia has announced that a peace deal with Kyiv, based on President Zelenskyy's 10-point peace plan, is infeasible. Maria Zakharova, the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson, expressed that none of the 10 points in the plan aim for a negotiated and diplomatic solution to the crisis. She labeled the entire proposal as a meaningless ultimatum from Russia that seeks to prolong the conflict, hence concluding that a peaceful settlement on such grounds cannot be attained. Zakharova went on to accuse Ukraine and the West of attempting to diminish peace proposals by other nations, characterizing this as a battle against international dissent and an effort to promote impractical settlement ideas through deceptive means. She further praised the mediation and humanitarian initiatives of countries from the Global South and mentioned that Moscow has been monitoring talks held in Saudi Arabia. According to the US-based Institute for the Study of War, ISW, Ukraine's strategic missile strikes on vital road bridges connecting occupied Crimea and Kherson Oblast are a crucial part of its interdiction strategy. The strikes are aimed at creating conditions for future decisive counteroffensive operations. As a result of these targeted attacks, Russian military forces are forced to redirect traffic, leading to logistical difficulties and interruptions in supply routes. Ukrainian forces struck key road bridges on August 6th, prompting Russian forces to reroute traffic from shorter eastern routes to longer western ones. Vladimir Saldo, head of Kherson Oblast's occupation administration, detailed the launch of 12 missiles at a road bridge across the Henichesk Strait. Russian air defenses intercepted 9 of these missiles, but significant damage was inflicted on the bridge. Both sides reported minor damage to the Chonhar road bridge, a critical connector between occupied Crimea and Kherson Oblast. Russian sources alleged the use of Storm Shadow cruise missiles in the strikes, but ISW has not confirmed the interception of such missiles. Sergei Aksyonov, the Crimean occupation head, stated that repair work at the Chonhar Bridge is in progress and that all traffic will be rerouted through specific checkpoints. The Russian Federal Security Service, FSB, suspended civilian entry to the Arabat Spit from July 31st, and there has been no comment on the status of traffic along certain grounds lines of communication, GLOCs. The president's office announced the release of another 22 Ukrainian armed forces soldiers from Russian captivity, including officers, privates, and sergeants, with ages ranging from 23 to 54. Andriy Yermak stressed that all released individuals will undergo physical and psychological rehabilitation and receive necessary medical treatment. He emphasized the importance of fulfilling the president's task of bringing back all Ukrainian citizens. As of August 7th, a total of 2,598 Ukrainians have been repatriated, marking the 48th such exchange. Major parliamentary factions in the Bundestag have reached a consensus on transferring long-range Taurus missiles to Ukraine. MP Yehor Chernyev reported the development, emphasizing the missile's 500-kilometer range that covers all occupied territories, including Crimea's southern coast. Despite initial resistance from some German politicians, including Defense Minister Boris Pistorius, the stance on supplying these missiles has gradually shifted. Retired Colonel and Bundestag member Roderick Kieseweteris has been vocal about providing Ukraine with these missiles under international law. Ukraine's official request for the missiles was submitted on May 27th, and President Zelenskyy has also discussed the matter with German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. In occupied Crimea, Russian security forces conducted a search at the residence of 30-year-old Crimean Tatar Asan Zakaryayev and subsequently took him to an unknown location. Rafat Chubarov, the head of the Mejlis of the Crimean Tatar people, reported the incident, stating that Zakaryayev was home alone during the search. Activists from the Crimean Solidarity reported that Zakaryayev's family has filed a police report regarding his abduction. British intelligence has observed that despite considerable resource deployment, the Russian Air Force has been unable to achieve decisive operational effects in support of land operations in Ukraine. The lack of effective tactical air power in the south has become evident in recent weeks. The Department of Defense of the United Kingdom stated that Russian tactical combat aircraft have been restricted to operating over Russian-controlled territory due to Ukrainian air defenses. Analysts have noted Russia's attempts to overcome these limitations by using basic freefall bombs with range-extending glide attachments. Though these can be released from a distance, they have not demonstrated consistent accuracy. The intelligence report also cited that Russian attack helicopters were initially effective but have lost their impact in the ongoing southern counteroffensive since June 2023. Oleksandr Tarnavskyy, the commander of the Operational Strategic Group of Troops known as Tavria, stated in a telegram message that Russians continue to utilize chemical weapons in violation of international conventions. The Chemical Weapons Convention previously prohibited the military use of chloropicrin. On the previous night, Russian forces in the Novodanilivka area, within the Orikhiv community of Pologiv district of Zaporizhzhya region, executed 2 artillery barrages from MLRS. The ammunition contained chemicals, likely chloropicrin, though no injuries resulted from the attack. Chloropicrin, known to cause irritation to the lungs, eyes, and skin, was used as a tear gas during World War I. Though less lethal than other chemical agents, it was still harmful. The main intelligence directorate reported in May 2023 that Russian Federation Special Services had begun provocations involving chemical weaponry. On the 7th of August, the city of Pokrovsk in Donetsk Oblast suffered 2 missile attacks from Russian troops, leading to 5 fatalities and 31 injuries. Among the injured were employees of the State Emergency Service and police officers, according to Minister of Internal Affairs, Ihor Klimenko. In addition to human loss, residential buildings, private houses, hotels, restaurants, shops, and administrative buildings sustained damages, as reported by Donetsk Oblast's Governor Pavlo Kyrylenko. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy remarked that Russia is determined to leave only destruction in Donetsk Oblast. He also highlighted the ongoing efforts by rescuers to find people trapped under rubble. The town of Nikopol in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast experienced heavy Russian shelling on the 7th of August, resulting in 1 death and another injury. The aggressors targeted the city with substantial artillery, leading to the death of a 36-year-old man and the injury of a 68-year-old resident who is in stable condition and recovering at home. The attack also caused significant damage to private residential buildings, outbuildings, personal vehicles, a gas pipeline, and power lines, according to additional reports. Russian forces attacked a residential building in frontline Pokrovsk, Donetsk region, with missiles, killing 5 and injuring 18. The regional military administration's head, Pavlo Kyrylenko, detailed damages to high-rise buildings, homes, a hotel, restaurants, and administrative facilities. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy expressed strong condemnation of the Russian terror and emphasized that those responsible would be held accountable. Ukraine's internal ministry reported further details of the casualties, including the death of the deputy head of Ukraine's emergency service in the Donetsk region. This attack follows previous shelling in Pokrovsk in June 2023, which injured 4 civilians and damaged infrastructure. By 2150, on the day of the attack, the number of injured in Pokrovsk had risen to 31, including 19 police officers, 5 emergency workers, and a child. Emergency workers continued their efforts to clear away rubble, while as of 22 o'clock, 5 civilian deaths and 14 wounded, including an 11-year-old child, were reported. 2 state emergency service employees and 1 soldier were also killed, and 9 police officers, a local military administration employee, and a soldier were wounded, according to officials.